Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about waiting on God. Waiting on God when we're using our faith, we're applying our faith, and we are just standing firm in believing that He will give us what we ask for. He will do what He promises, right? And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's a bit complicated because we see everything around us going wrong or not going the way we want it to. And we're like, God, where are you at? God, you're late. Come on, let's get this done. And see, we always have to use patience when we use our faith, okay? Faith and patience go hand in hand. Faith is, in Hebrews 11, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I know faith is hindered when we're trying to rush God, or when we try to go out and do it on our own, or when we panic while we're waiting. And so today we're gonna be in the book of Mark chapter 5. And I've talked about this many times, but I don't think I've ever talked about it from Jairus's viewpoint, okay? Mark chapter 5, verse 21, it says, "When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders, named Jairus, came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, 'My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so she will be healed and live.'" Okay, so let's look at one thing that Jairus said, right? He said, not please come and put your hands on her so that she might be healed. No, that she will be healed. And we've talked about that many times about your words, right? Knowing. Jairus knew that if Jesus went and laid his hands on his daughter, she would live. She would be healed. There was no maybe. Okay, there was no might. It was, she will be healed if you go over and touch her. He knew that off gate, right? And so a large crowd followed and pressed around him, right? Jesus, that's referring to Jesus. And so, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. So this is the story of the woman with the issue of blood, right? So she'd suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors, spent all she had, yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind the crowd and touched his cloak. She thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Once again, another example of your words. There was no doubt in her mind. There was no maybe I'll be healed. No, it was I will be healed if I touch his cloak, right? Immediately her bleeding stopped and she felt it in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once Jesus realized that power had gone out of him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," the disciples answered. "Yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet. Trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." So let's look at this from Jairus' perspective, okay? So he just came to Jesus. He got to Jesus first and was like, "Jesus, please come with me. My daughter is extremely sick. Can you please come with me right now and go lay hands on her so that she will be healed? Please come with me now, Jesus." And so Jesus essentially agreed, right? So Jairus is walking with Jesus and all the people, and all of a sudden this crowd comes around them. And then all of this happens with the woman with the issue of blood, right? So this took some time. See, most of us would have been like this. "Move, people, move. Jesus got to heal my kid. Come, move." See, the cool thing is Jairus didn't say a word. Jairus didn't say a thing to Jesus. He wasn't rushing Jesus. He wasn't like, "No, I got to you first, my guy. Come with me." He wasn't like that at all. Jairus just sat back and didn't say anything. He stood still. While Jesus was speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Overhearing what they said, Jesus told him, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He didn't let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, and the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." They laughed at him. They laughed at Jesus. After he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with them, and he went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha kum, which means, little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. Okay, so at this point, Jairus was patient. Jairus didn't say a word. Now, he may have been thinking some things like, come on, girl, come on. But he didn't say anything. He didn't rush God. He didn't try to, move the woman out of the way, move the crowd out of the way. No, he was just simply following Jesus because he knew Jesus would take care of it. Well, after all of this happened, people come to Jairus and it's like, bro, why are you bothering Jesus? Because your daughter's dead. There's no point in bothering the teacher anymore. And so instantly, I'm sure Jairus felt the world crashing down on him. His baby was dead. And he probably thought, oh, Jesus, you're too late. You're too late. But see, then Jesus looks at him and said, don't be afraid, just believe. See, and then we find out that Jesus goes to his house and ends up healing the girl, raising the girl from the dead. So Jesus wasn't late. He was right on time. God is never late. He is always on time. I'm sure Jairus was looking around going, oh my gosh, we're too late. Jesus was taking his time dealing with these other people over here. And I asked him first, we're late. God, you're late. It's already too late. My baby is dead. That could have been some thoughts going through his head, right? But even then, Jesus looked at him and was like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're good. You're good, right? And so finally, they go back to the house and boom, Jesus raises his baby from the dead. We go through similar situations all the time in life. We sit here and we wait and believe, and we're trying to use our faith and apply our faith, and we're like, God, where are you? Come on, God, let's go. Come on, hurry up. But see, we can't rush God. We have to be patient. We have to stand and be diligent. And being diligent means ruling out quitting. When we're waiting on God, when we're trying to use our faith and believe for something and know that we have something that God's promised us or that we know God's going to give to us, we have to stand and not rush God and not freak out and not panic, even when it looks like the world is crashing down on us. Romans 12:12 says, when you hope, be joyful. When you suffer, be patient. And when you pray, be faithful. So when you suffer, be patient. Even in the midst of your suffering, you have to stand. You have to stand and continue to be patient, continue to believe, and continue to use your faith, even when it looks like the world is crashing down around you. We are a here and now type of generation. So many things that are being invented now are instant. Technology is always trying to get faster and faster and faster. I know when you go and buy a phone or a computer, the salesperson tells you how fast the computer is. And so they're always trying to show you just how quick it is, right? I know I have CenturyLink, and if the Wi-Fi isn't working, or it's not fast enough, or if it's taking forever and a day to load something, I get ill. I get mad, right? It's all the time happening to me because CenturyLink is garbage. But I'm always getting irritated with my Wi-Fi because it's not fast enough for me, because I want it here and now. I'm very much the type of person who wants it here and now. I don't even really like ordering things online because I don't want to wait for it to come to my house. I like to go to a store where I can get it here and now. I have to really be on my guard about being patient, especially when I'm believing for something, especially when I'm trying to use my faith and ask God to give me something or help me with something, because I am such a here and now type of person. I gotta be on my guard about that. And see, I think we all do. I think it doesn't really matter the age. In the day that we live, there's many things that we expect to be real quick, but we can't be like that with God. We have to always be patient. And sometimes it takes us just not saying anything and continuing to stand and believe and be patient. Maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I already had my eye on a different car. I've told the story many times about how I got my Mustang. and how I used my faith even as a child. I was believing for a Mustang when I was 6 years old. And I kept saying that I was gonna get a Mustang, and I kept saying it, even though the people around me were like, no, maybe you should look at something else. Maybe you should, dream differently, even though I was told that. Guess what? I got a Mustang, right? And so I knew it was about time to, get a new car, and I didn't know how I was gonna get it. I didn't know how everything was gonna play out, but I wanted a Camaro. I knew I just wanted a Camaro. And once again, there was people that say, maybe you should look at something else. Maybe you should look at this car or that car, just something different. And I was like, no, I know what I want. And so I said it a long time ago. I said it in front of a crowd of people that my next car would be a Camaro. And so I decided to believe for a Camaro. And all of a sudden, one day, my car started having problems, and it was the transmission in my car. It came to a point where it was really scary for me to even drive my Mustang on the road. And so I had to obviously get my car towed to the people who fixed my transmission. Thankfully, God provided me another car to drive while my Mustang was getting fixed. I had been waiting on my new Camaro, right? I had been waiting, and honestly, at the time when I was getting my Mustang fixed, I really didn't think too much about, getting a new car. But then it just kind of hit me, and my parents were kind of encouraging me to look into it and things of that nature. So I started looking into it, and obviously I knew that I wanted a Camaro. I want what I want. I started to get frustrated because I was actually driving someone else's car while I was waiting for the Mustang to get fixed. There's a whole lot more to that story that went into it, but I started to stress out, and I started to panic, and I started to get really impatient because I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was getting a Camaro. I knew God was going to provide a way for me to get a new Camaro. And I knew that without a shadow of a doubt. But see, then I started to get impatient. I started believing for this 2 years ago. Well, it comes down right to the end, and I'm starting to freak out, and I'm starting to try to rush things. And I started to try to take things into my own hands. I was rushing God. I was like, God, come on. I don't have time for this. Like, I need to hurry up and get this done, right? And I just felt pressure, and it felt like it would never end. And so finally, God was like, hey, chill out. Now, God talks to me that way. I don't know if he talks to you that way, but God was real love, like, have I ever been too late? No, chill out. And so finally, I was like, forgive me, Lord, I'm sorry. So I just continued to stand. I continued to stand firm. I continued to use my faith, but I was patient. I had to be patient. And finally, once I took a breath and stepped back, even though it was still taking a long time, even though there were some different issues and things of that nature, I finally stepped back, and I was like, okay. About a week and a half after I made the decision that I was just gonna stand, I was gonna be patient, I was gonna continue to believe for what I knew God was going to give me, I ended up with my new Camaro. This is just an example of how when you stand firm, stand patient, and continue to stand in faith, even though it looks like the world's crashing down around you, even when it looks like it's too late, you still continue to stand. You still continue to use your faith, and you still continue to remain patient. Because see, God is never late. God is always exactly on time. God has never been late with me, ever. And see, even in this story, when Jairus thought, oh God, you're too late, she's already dead, God was like, no, watch this. A part of faith is being willing to stand and be patient, even though it looks as if everything else is going wrong. So you have to make up your mind to stand. Continue to use your faith. Continue to know without a shadow of a doubt that God is going to come through, and always remain patient. Even though the situation looks terrible, and even though it looks like there's no coming back from it, even though it looks like God is late, continue to stand. Continue to stand on the word, continue to stand on your faith, and continue to be patient, and God will always be on time. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. But before we go, let's say our confession of faith. Jesus is Lord of my life. I am led by the Spirit, fed by the Word, live by faith, and walk in love. In Jesus, I am wealthy, well, and wise, protected by His blood, blessed not cursed. His grace is sufficient for me. His will is my pleasure, and His cross my victory. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. In Jesus' name, amen. Guys, I love you, and I'll see you real soon.